Hello, all. Um, it has been a long time since I have been on here to make a video for you. Lots of new stuff happening in my life, some exciting things coming in the future. Um, we will come to that when it starts happening, and then I will tell you all about it when I know for sure. But today, I wanted to go back to a topic we talked about a while ago, and that's addiction. I had drawn a little picture, and it was actually in the depression episode. It was talking about how depression happens. I did want to talk about one where we talk about how addiction happens. What does that look like inside of your brain? The whole purpose of this is to educate others, right? Because if people understand how addiction works, it makes it a lot harder to look at somebody who uses substances and not see them as human. Because right now, a lot of people who use substances who are dealing with addiction, they're not looked at, they're not treated the same as anybody else. They're frowned upon, they're seen as a nuisance, and they're not seen as the person. You're looking at the result of something. And what that result is typically from is trauma. Trauma can be anything for anyone. It could be a car accident for some people that could be very traumatizing, of course. Or it could be that the child, a good example that was given in a movie I just watched, which I'm going to tell you about in just a second, was that the child, now grown, was telling his story saying when he was a kid, his mom and dad worked a ton. So they were never really around, but to show their love and affection, instead of giving that person their time, they would just give them gifts or money. So emotionally, there was no care, right? So that child experienced trauma from that. And absolutely, that is absolutely considered a trauma. It sounds simple for some people. And so you might say, I've been in that same situation and I went down a different road. But here's what I'm going to tell you. If we were all to pack a suitcase for every single thing we did in our life, not one of our suitcases would look the same. Not one, even your twins. Our suitcases are all different. We come from all walks of life. We cannot compare our lives to anybody else's lives. Anybody else's lives. We cannot say that our decisions are the decisions that, they should have made too just because you did it. No, everybody is built differently because of their experiences. This is a whole other topic, but your experiences can actually shape your DNA. You can actually pass trauma onto next generations through genetics. So, yeah, guys. Okay, back on track. Okay, so because of that, they want to find a solution to their pain. Okay. I'm not going to get into the reasons why someone may resort to illicit substances. Let's just say the mental health system can be very hard to navigate. So a lot of people don't know what resources are available. And a lot of people have trouble accessing the resources that they need. So it could be even financial. Anyways, so yes, how easy would it be if, say you're grieving, you lost a loved one, and you just were like, I can't grieve like this, I can't handle this emotion because you're so overwhelmed. Okay, now if you could take one pill, if you could take one puff off of some sort of one of their pipes. Okay. You could just a quick little injection would take your pain away. Keeping in mind that depression, anxiety, mental illness, addiction, all of those things feel their emotions. So they feel like how you grieve to the point that their body actually responds as though their body is dying. So when they say like, I am so, if they say like, I'm so sad that I could die, or just like whatever, like they mean that their body actually thinks it's dying. Okay. That is how much pain these people are in. And that is so like such an easy way to just get rid of it. So I'm going to show you quickly right here. I'm going to share my screen with you. Okay. Oh, no, that's not what I want. Okay. Sorry for the technical difficulties. I thought I had this all set up. Apparently not. Okay. So what I want to show you here first, let me just see if I'm getting ahead of myself here. Yeah. Okay. So the only thing I missed, I wanted to tell you about a quote that I saw. And it says, addiction is not a bad choice. Addiction is actually a solution to the problem. So that's what I was talking about with, they find the drug is the solution to their pain. It gets rid of it. Okay. So think of it in that terms. But here's what I want to show you. I want to show you this guy here. I'm going to keep zooming. Okay. So what we have in our system is called a brain reward dopamine pathway. And what that is, dopamine is a neurotransmitter that floats around inside your brain. And depending on the situations that you're in that moment and your experiences, it is going to tell you whether or not you should be, it's going to release dopamine, give you more dopamine if you should be responding happily. Unless if you're just kind of, like today, I haven't, right now, I'm just kind of like, like I'm not like super great. I'm, whatever. So what it does is it regulates your brain in the matter of behaviors and feeling of reward or happy or joy. So what you're looking at here, basically the dopamine pathway, I'm just going to read it right off of here. These brain circuits are important for natural rewards such as food, music, and sex. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to explain this to you to make it a little clearer. I'm not going to show you much of this. The only thing you may really want to know is that the frontal cortex is where a lot of this happens. And as the drugs damage the brain, this deteriorates. Well, this is the part of your brain that's responsible for your behaviors and your rationalized decision. And then your emotions obviously are also impacted by addiction as well. So that is that. Here is what I wanted to show you. So it's an example of the difference between what a synaptic gap, what you're looking at there. It's the difference between what the synaptic gaps do and how they respond to your body wanting to be, or bodily experiences. So what happens is you have this dopamine. I'm about to point with my fingers, which is not going to help you see this. So this is your dopamine, the little orange guys. Okay, that again is your happy hormone. It makes us feel reward. So when you're eating your favorite food at your favorite restaurant, so for me, it's steak at Atlas Steak and Fish. Oh my goodness, so good. Okay, for real. So you go to this restaurant and you bite into the steak and your mouth is watering and you are just like, man, that is a good steak. Like my stomach is gonna be happy, man. Okay, like that kind of happiness, that's dopamine saying, okay, yeah, we like this. So it's gonna release from here. It's gonna come down into this little gap. And these are little receptors here. And what happens is your dopamine will come into this gap and experience, it floats in and out of these receptors. And the more there is in there of your dopamine, the more happily you're responding or should respond to that situation. So dopamine will stay in there for a little bit, and then it gets taken back up into the synapse. But it's called the reuptake. So it gets sucked back up just to keep it regulated, right? It wants to keep it regulated. So I mean, it's what the difference is from you're out with your significant other, you get a dessert. I've got a chocolate cake. Okay. I bite into it and I'm like, that's a really good chocolate cake. Okay. Yeah. All right. And I'm happy, maybe just like that happy, just like on the screen. And then my spouse, he got a cheesecake, and cheesecake is my favorite. I don't know why I didn't order it. So I take a bite of his cheesecake and I am singing hallelujah, like this is the best dessert I've ever had in my life. So you're going to release more dopamine, and your brain's going to say, yep, keep being happy, keep being rewarded as you're eating this food, right? You're making me happy. You're rewarding me is kind of what the brain is saying and what your body's saying. So it recognizes, it takes that experience and says, okay, and now it's going to create neuron pathways, basically. And it's going to tell your body, whenever I have an experience like this, similar to this, in a similar place, whatever it may be, whenever I experience this, I get happy. It makes me happy. So you'll start seeing, maybe you'll go back to that restaurant later on, and I'm going to order the cheesecake this time. And I look at that cheesecake and I'm like, yeah, or I'm on my way to the restaurant and I'm like so stoked for this cheesecake, right? There's going to be more dopamine in there because I am a lot more excited for this. Like, I'm like, this is going to be even more rewarding this time because now I get to eat the whole thing. So that is the difference. And if your body didn't regulate that, you would be either up here all the time or down here all the time. And you can't be either. Because being up here, if you're happy all the time, you're not going to notice things like threats and that kind of stuff, right? And if you're down here, then obviously you're not going to be very satisfied with your life, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. You need to be able to regulate. Okay, so now this is what it looks like when there's drugs in the picture, okay? So I'm going to move this more because I don't know if you can see that or not, but okay. So over here, cocaine. So I just did a bunch of cocaine, just hypothetically, I promise. And I'm like, oh my God, like I feel so relieved. Oh my God, I don't feel all that hurt I'm feeling. Like, holy cow, right? I'm like, this feels amazing. And I'm just high on life because that's what this drug does. It's an upper. It's gonna bring you up and be like, oh yes, like this is the best I've ever felt. I need to keep doing this. And your brain says the same thing as it did with the cheesecake where it connected it. And it's like, the more I do it, the more this pathway gets stronger. And so then I get hooked. So what happens, or how this happens, this is the cocaine, these little red guys here. They're the large red guys, I guess. Now you remember those reuptake channels that I showed you over here? The cocaine comes in here and it blocks it. It says, no, I don't want anything going back. Like, we're going to have a party, guys. Like, this is like the party of the year for dopamine. So they're going to block that. Okay. And now the drug is in your system and you're still feeling so happy. And so your brain's going to keep releasing all of this dopamine. And now you have a flooded channel and the dopamine can't go anywhere. So it's bonding, 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 bonding to your receptors versus bonding, bonding, bonding. Now it's firing like this. So you're literally having the time of your life. Okay. So as I said, the more this is repeated, and why wouldn't this person repeat this now? They found peace for the first time probably in their lives, Or, you know, like a lot of the times we don't realize we're dealing with trauma. So that's why I say it that way. But maybe the trauma happens later in life and that's what causes it. Anyways, it doesn't matter. If you are somebody who feels that much pain for any reason, and you could, like I said, you could take one thing, you could do one quick little snort of cocaine off of your pinky nail, maybe, and you feel better. It took away all of your pain. I don't blame them, especially in conditions that a lot of people live in. I mean, we're talking a great percentage of people with addictions are homeless, right? Their addiction inevitably, unfortunately, somehow leads them there. And so these people have all of these other challenges. They have a hard time getting food. People don't look at them. They have a hard time being like socially interacting because they're just shunned. And as I said, looked upon as nuisances. And these people, you're hurting them even further. Like they just feel like, wow, I'm useless to society because of the way that they're treated. So yeah, they're probably going to keep using, and I don't really blame them. So yeah, what happens, you're feeling all of this extra happy and rewarded, and your brain again makes that attachment, and it's like, damn, we love this. Okay, so then what happens the more we continue to use the drugs? Well, obviously this pathway gets stronger. But what also happens is that I mentioned that drugs destroy the frontal cortex of the brain, right? So as all of this is going on and you're using, we're destroying the brain, and we're having a lot harder of a time getting the proper amount of dopamine out when we're not on cocaine. When we're sober, I can barely get enough dopamine to even make me happy. I feel even worse now because I don't have enough of that dopamine to regulate my moods the way it should. My brain is damaged. My brain is diseased. Okay, that is what's happening here. So you take the same amount, and I'm going to say this in loose terms, hypothetically, because I haven't dabbled in illicit drugs. I actually don't know what amounts, but say I'm like, okay, I'm a daily user. I'm going to take a gram. I take a gram. I've been using for a while, right? You know, that part of my brain's diseased now. So yeah, I'm like, it's not working. Like, I don't get it. It's just not working. I don't feel as happy as I should. Like, it felt so much better before. Like, I'm still remembering and I'm panicking, right? So I'm going to take a little bit more because I'm like, oh my God, like I got to get out of this, right? Like I need to escape all of this. So I take more. And eventually I need more and more. And it can get to a point where you need so much more that you end up in a very bad place. So we don't want people to get there, is the whole point. We are having this discussion to save lives by having people understand that, yes, this person has an addiction, but there is a story behind that addiction. Okay, you have to stop looking at this person and saying you're an addict, you're useless to society, and putting judgment upon them and labeling them as addict as if that is what they are. No, they have an addiction. I personally don't like using the term addict because I feel like that's what it does. I feel like it says, hey, that's all I am. I'm just an addict. Okay. And that's not true. Under all of this craziness, under all of caused from all of this story in their life and the trauma that they have, that is what caused this. That is the mask that's there, but that is not the person. What is your personality underneath that? Okay. We seem to look at these people and think that they don't have feelings, and that's not true. Okay. So this is why we share this stuff. and why we make it visual, and why we say, hey, like, this is actually a disease, like, and we're going to inform the next person, and maybe they'll listen, maybe they won't, but maybe that person will inform 2 other people, and word spreads. This is how things go viral, because we share these things out of curiosity. We like to learn these things, and eventually, if we all contribute, we could reduce stigma greatly. So that is essentially how one may become addicted, and how one's tolerance builds up, and how it really gets to a point, as we said, the dopamine pathway, these parts of the brain, again, pointing with my fingers, these parts of the brain, for those of you who are watching on video and not listening to me, this part of the brain is responsible for not only just the rewards and how you get addicted to something, it's responsible for your behaviors, and your personality gets affected. So this person, their life is basically intruded upon by the addiction. Okay, the addiction went in their brain, and it was like, okay, here you go. Here's an analogy for you. Basically, a drug is like a Trojan horse. It gets into your brain, and then all these little things come out and they destroy the rest. It's, you know, you don't know it's happening in your brain, right? You can't see it happening because your brain is being damaged. You're unable to reason properly, okay? So this is why it's a disease model. Because it's not just as easy as, why don't you quit? Yeah, so I have a daughter who's addicted to methamphetamine, and like, I don't know what to do with her. Like, she should be, she has a kid, and she should be able to take care of that kid and see that kid and be like, I love you, and like, I love you so much that I'm going to change for you. But that is not how it works, because basically that part of the brain, just say, it really isn't functioning much at all, right? The drug is at that point controlling the brain. So anyways, that, my friends, let me stop sharing, is what I wanted to say to you on that note. And I'm just going to read you a quick quote, literally just a Google search that I came up with, and when I just searched like a definition of the reward pathway, and it's the reward pathway of the brain is connected to the areas of the brain that control behavior and memory. Okay, so it's what I showed you on the chart. So where neurons release dopamine to make you feel pleasure, the brain begins to make connections between the activity and the pleasure, ensuring that we're going to repeat the behavior. And that's exactly it. So that, my friends, is what, in a nutshell, it is so much more complicated than that. We're focusing on one neurotransmitter, and there are multiple neurotransmitter involved in mental health and addiction. So that's just the beginning, but that is the best way to provide evidence for people that this has been scientifically proven to happen inside of the brain. We see the chemical levels changing. We do brain scans. We see the damage to the brain, right? These things are all documentable. Addiction is a disease. And you really only need to know the basics to understand that. So thank you for watching. Like I said, big news coming soon, I hope, for you. There's a couple of huge changes going on in my life. So I think I said that at the beginning. That might have been the other take. Don't laugh at me if I'm wrong. So yeah, anyways, keep looking for my videos. please keep sharing, because if we don't keep sharing, then nobody's going to learn this stuff and we're not going to get any further ahead in getting proper treatment for people that need it. See you guys.